This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Make sure you hang around. I've got a really cool deal for you guys. Have you ever tried to take an astrophotography photo with your phone and it just did not work? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you five tips to make sure you're going to get a good astro shot. Let's get into it. Tip number one is all about the gear that you need. You're going to need a phone holder, you're going to need a tripod. How good is this setup here? There's a review coming very shortly for this. I think I have found my favorite tripod ever. It's the Explorer Photo Video Expedition Pro, I think it's called, carbon fiber tripod. Wait till you see the review on this bad boy. It really is the duck's nuts. So you're going to need a phone holder, you're going to need a tripod, you're going to need a phone. I'll talk about both of those phones when it comes to actually taking the photo. The way to think about tripods is to think of them as an insurance policy. Now, if you've spent a fair bit of dollars on your phone, make sure you protect that investment by putting a good sturdy tripod underneath it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to review that bad boy in the next couple of weeks for you, and I'm telling you, I'm so impressed with this thing. Next is the torch, and if you're going to do any sort of light painting on a subject with the night sky behind it, you're going to need a torch. This is the Wubin torch. Doesn't have to be this torch. You can use any torch at all. The important thing to remember is that it needs to be adjustable as far as the brightness intensity of the torch goes. The next thing is an app, and the app that I use every single time that I plan for astrophotography, if you've watched the channel, you've seen it, it's PhotoPills. PhotoPills is an app that's available on iOS and on Android. It costs about $10 to $15 depending on where you are in the world, and I've got to tell you, it's the best money you'll ever spend if this is the sort of photo you'll ever take. If you're a landscape photographer, astrophotographer, any sort of photographer that takes photos outdoors, this app is just sensational. It's awesome, definitely worth the money. There are others out there. I've used Stellarium before. I used it when I was based on the computer. I haven't used it on the phone. If there's others out there that you know of, let me know. Put a comment down the bottom and I'll check them out for you. Number two is location. That is where you are in the world. You'll hear lots of words that you may not have heard before when it comes to astrophotography if you haven't done it before. One of them is Bortle and what the Bortle rating is. And Bortle is basically how dark the sky is, and you want it to be as dark as possible. The main way that I find out how dark it's going to be in a location that I'm going to go and shoot is log on to lightpollutionmap.info. It's a sensational resource to find a location reasonably close to you that's not polluted by light. By polluted by light, I mean by towns, etc. It's not just artificial light though. The other sort of light is moonlight, and you're looking at no more than probably 30% of the moon to be visible, and you can also tell that with the app I talked to you before about, which was PhotoPills, and it will also give you a moon cycle. So anything under 30% of moonlight, you're going to get some pretty good shots. If you're near a really major highway or a fairly good road and there's a lot of traffic moving up and down it every night, these photos take up to 30 seconds to take. So you need to have that sort of distance between cars. You probably want 2 or 3 minutes so there's no light, headlights, spotlights, that sort of thing coming. So roads are also a major concern as far as light pollution goes. Number three is the subject that we want to shoot and how we're going to shoot it. If we're going to have a subject at all, sometimes it's okay not to have any subject at all and just shoot the night sky. Totally fine. But other times there's really two ways to put a subject into the photo. One, you use PhotoPills to work out where you need to stand in relation to the galactic core moving above the sky, above the horizon. Number two is if you're going to silhouette it or if you're going to light paint it. In my mind, what I do is, if it's absolutely obvious that it's a certain subject, a tree, etc., well then I don't necessarily light paint it. I just leave it as a silhouette, and that works pretty bloody good, like this sort of photo here. Otherwise, if you want some detail, if there's like lights of little nuts and bolts and guards and nerdy details all over a subject, like a tractor or a piece of machinery, I'll generally light paint it. But how do you light paint it? Do you remember when I was talking about that Wubin torch? So we're going to use that Wubin torch. If you're shooting straight, if this is the camera here that you're shooting the subject with, I'm going to light it from this side or light it from this side. Never light it straight here. Looks stupid, but you're going to get a lot more detail lighting it from either angle. How long do you do it for? Well, that really depends, and that's why we have that reducing intensity sort of torch. It just works well for this sort of thing. If it's too bright, well, bring it down a little bit. If it's too dark, well, increase the brightness. Before we go into number 4, let's talk about today's sponsor, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creative people. And if you're here watching this video, learning how to do really cool night photography with your phone, guess what? You're a creative person. There are literally thousands of topics covered over there on this platform for you to learn all about. I'm talking about photography, filmmaking, drawing, painting. The list goes on and on and on. There's so many things that you can learn over there on Skillshare. There's even a few over there just on mobile photography. I mean, specifically mobile photography. I've done a few of these courses already. My favorite so far is the YouTube Success course run by Marques Brownlee. And if you don't know who he is, well, chances are if you're watching my stuff, you're probably watching his stuff too. This guy's a tech genius on YouTube. And if he's got anything to say, I'm going to listen. And I learned so much by doing that course. So whatever your goal is as a creative person, there is something on Skillshare that's going to help you out right now. When you join Skillshare as a member, you unlock literally thousands of those courses and you can just binge until your heart's content. If you click the link down below, the first 1,000 people to do it will get 1 month free premium Skillshare, and you can just go and go and go and learn and learn and learn. Let's get on with this. Number 4 is talking all about RAW. On an iPhone, you've got Pro RAW, and on any other Android device, you've got RAW. You've got the Expert RAW on some of the later Samsungs. My advice in this low light sort of photography that we're doing, it's probably not the best way to do it. I would still shoot RAW with the regular camera app. Just go into the settings, change to RAW enabled, shoot out both the JPEG and a RAW file, and you'll be able to edit them a bit better. The reason that we're doing RAW instead of just shooting out JPEGs, well, you get to decide on what that photo is going to do. When you shoot a JPEG photo, computational photography comes really heavily into it, and the camera's going to do what it thinks is what you want it to do, and chances are for astrophotography, it's not the same thing. So shoot RAW and then edit, which is number 5. Editing your photos for astrophotography is just a must. You have to do it. There's just no way around it. There is an exception to that though. I would not necessarily edit a pixel photo. A pixel astrophotography photo, the camera does it really well, and you probably don't need to do anything with it unless you shoot RAW. And if you shoot RAW, you're going to need to edit. How do you edit and what do you edit with? Well, I do it all the time on this channel, so make sure you subscribe. I use Lightroom almost exclusively for astrophotography editing. And there's one major reason. Actually, these days there's 2. One is the masking tool, which is just bloody sensational on the new Lightroom. And 2 is that dehazing slider. The thing that I found with all mobile photography, which is different to regular photography, is that it brings in a lot of haze through that computational photography through the camera on the phone. I don't know why it does it, but most phones that I've tried it with here on this channel, it just does it. Don't know why, but it helps. Use Lightroom Mobile. Bonus tip. Check the weather. Right now, I've just come out here to shoot this Milky Way coming above the horizon before the moon gets too big, and guess what? It's bloody cloudy. So make sure you check the weather app and make sure you follow those other 5 tips, and you're off to a bloody good start. Anyway guys, that's it for today. Catch you later.
It wasn't possible to make us